Imagine that you could buy stocks in your uncle's farm, and yes, I know that assumes that your uncle has a farm. Let's say it's a small farm, it's got some cows, etc., and you can buy stocks from his company. And this is something you would do on the stock market just like you do with big companies like Apple, Exxon, or Chevron. Think I'm crazy? Well, actually, I'm not at all. And at the end of this video, you're going to see exactly where I'm coming from. Let's say you want to start a company, a traditional company. Let's stick to the example of a cow farm that's going to produce milk and other dairy products. What is the first thing that you need? Well, of course, that's going to be money. You need money to buy the property, the facilities, as well as the all-important cows. So where can you get the money to do this? Well, the first option, of course, is going to be to go to the bank, but this has a whole bunch of issues. The first one is that if it wasn't risky enough to start your own company, having a loan makes it even more risky. You could end up bankrupt and in debt. Besides, then there's the whole thing that the bank might actually not give you that loan. If you ever tried to get a loan to start a company, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's pretty hard to convince a banker to lend you any money. So let's first of all disregard the bank option. The next alternative is a venture capitalist. You know, those guys out in Silicon Valley. These are people with loads of cash and a willingness to invest in young talents just like you. I mean, who knows, maybe a small farm might become the next industry behemoth. But then you run into the problem that you probably don't know any venture capitalists, especially if you're somewhere like in the middle of India. So there's no banks, there's no venture capitalists, but maybe your parents are rich, but if they're not, well, I guess that's not any help. So just hold on for a minute, because I think I have an idea. What if you could already enter the stock market? You know, something like Wall Street, where General Motors and McDonald's operate. The good thing about the stock market is that you don't need to know a millionaire to get funding. There are thousands of small investors out there who buy stocks every day. So let's say you divide your company into 10,000 stocks, and each of them has an initial price of $10. And people, no matter where they live, can buy those shares. So maybe there's a guy in Kansas who buys one stock and there's a woman in France who buys 10. This way, with no contacts and no bank loans, you can get the funding you need. You just need a good idea and a bit of hard work, right? Well, hold on a second, don't get too excited. There's a pretty major problem here. For instance, if you want to get into the New York Stock Exchange, your company should have already made at least $10 million in the last 3 years. And that's just the beginning. There are lots and lots of regulations that you have to meet. Well, this is the situation that the guys from Hokolskaya Agricultural Company were in. They lived in Russia and they wanted to start a cow farm and they had no money. So, well, what do you think they did? Well, check this out.
Russian-backed Kokolskaya Agricultural Company plans to launch an ICO named Milkcoin to fund a dairy farm.
Yep, you heard that right. These farmers launched their own cryptocurrency. It's basically their own version of Bitcoin. They advertised it on their website and launched the offer of these new coins. This is what we call an initial coin offering, or ICO. So now you might be wondering, well, why would I buy another cryptocurrency? Isn't Bitcoin enough? Now you might just think that you're just buying some sort of virtual coin here, but the reality is you're actually buying stocks, and you're doing it without going through the traditional stock markets. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you what happens with this company, but the fact is, they're not the only example.
Damn. Only 48% of ICOs were successful last year, but startups still managed to raise $5.6 billion.
Yes, dear viewer, there appears to be a brand new way of getting money to start a company, and it's available for everybody right now. But hold on just a minute, because not everything is so beautiful. As you can imagine, these ICOs seem like a scammer's paradise. So the question is, can we really trust this brand new way of starting companies? And what does Switzerland have to do with all of this? Today we're going to answer all of these questions, but before we do, as usual, let's take a look back at the history.
Coins versus tokens.
In the year 2013, everyone in the tech industry was already pretty aware of Bitcoin. In Silicon Valley, they were celebrating all kinds of events and talking about the future of this currency. In one of them, there was a man called J.R. Willett. This man had a very funny idea. He said we could create alternative currencies that, using the same technology as Bitcoin, would have different rules. And how are you going to pay all the IT people who would design all of this, they asked him. And he said that instead of looking for a venture capitalist, he could sell some notes, what we call a token, that would be exchanged for coins once they were created. And this is how the first initial coin offering was created. But before we continue, many of you might now be wondering, well, what exactly is a token? Well, tokens are any element that can be changed in a blockchain. Cryptocurrencies are one kind of token, but there are many more. On the one hand, we have those that give a right to its owner. For instance, those notes that you could exchange for brand new currencies when they are created. On the other hand, we have the tokens that are based on an asset. This would be the case of the stocks of the Russian farmers. Having one of their tokens means having a share of their company. This initial public offering of tokens became fashionable in the year 2014. So why was that? What exactly happened in this year? Well, that was the year when the second most famous cryptocurrency was created.
Ethereum, the decentralized platform that might displace today's institutions.
Unlike Bitcoin, we all know who is behind Ethereum. This is a company that offers way more than a cryptocurrency. They also offer a system so other people can create their own cryptocurrencies and their own tokens. For example, do you remember this other video where I told you about how a Spanish bank is using blockchain to give corporate loans? Well, Ethereum is the platform that they use. We aren't only talking about Spanish banks here. Ethereum has made it really easy for lots of people to start creating different financial products on blockchain.
The Ethereum rush has been unleashed. ICOs are in fashion in the tech investment world.
Since then, lots of companies are getting financed this way. For example, SIRIN Labs, a Swiss company that is about to launch their own smartphone. This company has got more than $118 million thanks to one of the most successful ICOs in history. And of course, there are all kinds of internet companies that have been born with this system. But just hold on a second, because not everything is so great. ICOs, they've got no regulation whatsoever, so you can certainly imagine there are some problems.
How to create an ICO scam in 5 simple steps.
Well, now you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between an ICO and a website like Kickstarter? Well, that's actually pretty easy to answer. If you support some Kickstarter project, you can't sell any shares. On an ICO, you can buy a token or a coin, and if it rises higher in market value, you can sell it to another investor. The only problem is that here there is no financial police or SEC running against the bad guys. So yes, there were plenty of people who thought they could get rich really quick and then ended up losing a ton of money. For example, SavedRoid was a German company that wanted to make a cryptocurrency-based credit card. It had all the buzzwords to make speculators happy, and everything seemed great. The technology was there, and it was very disruptive. They got $50 million to launch it. So once they got their money, what do you think happened? Well, they just disappeared, and since there was no public register whatsoever, it's almost impossible to find the owner. I'm sure you've all seen the ads online for coins and tokens and things that promise a whole ton of profit. I mean, for a better understanding, even the CEO of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, recognized that most of the ICOs are scams. As you can imagine, governments have already started to act. China has banned ICOs. America seems to be following a similar path. Other countries like Estonia said that it's okay to invest in ICOs for everyone except Estonian citizens. So they're essentially saying something like, oh yeah man, you could totally scam anyone you like, just not my own citizens. Cool? Nonetheless, there is one country that has found an intermediate solution. They won't ban ICOs, but they will not let them go unregulated as they are today. And what country am I talking about? Well, let me give you a clue. It's probably the channel we've talked most about here on VisualPolitik. Already know it? Well, yes, of course, we're talking about
Switzerland, the crypto nation.
Do you remember that video we made about Switzerland? There we talked about a canton called Zug, which has the lowest taxes in the country. So So, well, guess where Ethereum has its headquarters? Having the biggest cryptocurrency company in your country means that you also have the biggest experts on the matter there. So, most of the ICOs are done on Swiss servers. And of course, the Swiss government soon realized that with or without scams, this was a multi-million-dollar industry.
Switzerland wants to be the world capital of cryptocurrency. 4 of the 10 biggest initial coin offerings last year were in Switzerland, more than any other country.
This is why some Swiss municipalities let their citizens pay taxes or even fines with cryptocurrencies. Zug, having less than 30,000 inhabitants, is already the home of 400 blockchain-based companies. And their regional government is already doing trials to use this technology to organize referendums. You probably already know that referendums and direct democracy are essential in the Swiss political system. So, well, now they want to do it with blockchain. And of course, Switzerland wants to become the pioneer in ICO regulations too.
Swiss Financial Authority releases ICO-specific regulatory guidelines.
For example, any company that wants to make an ICO in Switzerland will have to do it through a Swiss company. This means they will have to register, then have to give their name and physical address. This way, it will be easier to chase terrorists, narcos, or scammers. As you can imagine, these regulations, well, they're starting to work, and many companies have already gone to other tax havens like the Cayman Islands, which offer a complete dog-eat-dog environment where you can essentially do whatever you want. This is the short-term price you have to pay in order to have a stable environment. We're talking about a world that still needs a lot of work before it becomes a mature market. One thing is for sure, it has plenty of possibilities, many scams, lots of money laundering, and some easy money to be made. So the Swiss way seems to be the smartest so far. Yes, a new technology has come. It is risky, but it has many possibilities too. Instead of banning it or letting it run completely free, the best option is to regulate it. This way, we take the good and avoid the bad. By the way, going all the way back to our Russian friends, the ones who wanted to finance their farm with cryptocurrency, well, we've got some bad news for you.
Unfortunately, since Milkcoin raised only 2% of the soft cap, we're giving back all funds that we received. We will start the return on the 21st of November. Huge thanks to our backers.
Now the question becomes, do you think other countries will follow the Swiss example? It is clear that we still need more time for the ICO market to grow and become mature, but do you think it can be the capitalist revolution that will open the entry barriers to starting a company? Please, well, leave your answer in the comment section below, and do visit our friends from Reconsider Media, the podcast that provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine. And don't forget that we publish brand new videos like this one every week, so hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any posts, and if you want to, you can support us on Patreon. And as always, I'll see you next time.
And if you want to learn more about politics and hear even more of my lovely voice, you can join us at Reconsider Media. We have a podcast at reconsidermedia.com/podcast. See you there.